On this Ask Katrina, the question is, hey, Katrina, how do I not get left out at work? And so it was a great question. I had to do a follow-up question to really figure out exactly what we're talking about here, right? Is it just, mean people in cliques leaving you out? Is it your boss not inviting you to do certain things? Because there's a lot of things that we could ask that question around, right? There are a lot of situations where we could say, how do I make sure I'm not left out? I'm an introvert, right? For example, how do I make sure that I step up and get invited? Well, in this situation in particular, the question was revolving around the fact that as women, there are times that we don't get invited to go along on the men trips and the men events and all the different things. And so we're left out. And we know from experience, if this has ever happened to you once, you quickly learn that there is so much that is discussed on a golf trip, on an afternoon, drinking event, during even in the men's restroom. Sometimes there are conversations that happen and deals that are discussed. And obviously we're left out of a lot of those things, right? They don't want to have to change the way that they speak or discuss certain things. They don't want to potentially change, the language that they use. There are all these rationalizations that they have as to why they want to exclude us. And I can tell you from personal experience, I used to work directly for an individual who would go intentionally on trips that were for men only, and by design didn't invite women. And the role that I held at the time was critically important for me to be in those meetings because I needed to understand what was being sold, what was being promised, if that could be done or not. And so there were a lot of issues with that, right? Personally and professionally that I had with just being left out. So understand that, again, if it's happening to you or it's happened to you, you're not alone. It happens, unfortunately, to a lot more of us than we would like for it to have happen, right? It happens way more often than it should, but it happens. So if it's happening to you, you're not to blame. Here's the thing. Let me just call it out very clearly. You may not be able to change that. You may not. Okay? I don't want you to get too frustrated with the fact that you can't influence it. You may have a supervisor who is a man, and by nature, he simply does not want to allow certain discussions to occur outside of a specific environment. If you cannot influence that, it's not because of your failure to influence. You have nothing to do with that. The point, though, is that you should go try. So if you haven't tried, let's talk about trying. And then the end result is the end result. So how do you approach that conversation? There are no ways to approach this without risk. Let me just call that out right now. There are no ways to approach it without risk. Because some people would say, well, just go talk to HR. Great. Now HR is going to go talk to your supervisor instead of you. Is there a risk in that? Yes. Right? So typically where I recommend anyone started any conversation, it doesn't matter the conversation type, is go have a conversation with the person. It very well may be that your supervisor is just like, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. You are the first woman that we've had on the team, or you're the first woman that we've had on the team in a while, or whatever. I did not even think about it. Please accept my apologies. I'll fix it. I didn't realize. And it's done. It could sincerely be that he had a human moment and it's done. Okay? You could also go have a conversation and say, hey, I need you to understand there are a lot of conversations that are happening at the golf events or, at the afternoon events just for guys. And I want to propose that we open this up. You guys can go and have your own events. I have no problem with that, but I really want to be included anytime you're having discussions around business because I want to play an active part in that. I definitely have some ideas. And if nothing else, I want to be able to support your ideas, right? So in other words, acknowledge the fact that it's happening, ask for the invitation, and explain why it's important that you be able to attend. Whatever those reasons are, address the issue, the event, call it out, point it out by name. These are the exact events that are happening. This is what is occurring in those meetings and why I need to be there. Maybe you're not deciding or designing them to be meetings, but they are. So if they're going to be meetings where business is discussed, I need to be invited, please. Or, if it's a guy's thing, cool. Can you agree that the business decisions won't be made in those meetings. That they truly are just guys, hangout events, and that you're going to reserve the business talk for when we can all be together. Either way is fine with me. Okay. And explain why. Because I need to be able to convey these things to my team, or I need to be part of the decision, or I need to be able to share with you the concerns, right? You made a decision over here that directly impacted my department or my team. And what you didn't know is that we actually can't do those things because X, Y, and Z. And if I were there, I could have shared some of that information in a way that really supported you and would have made you coming out looking like a hero, as opposed to coming out and having to correct the promise that you made during that deal discussion, right? You can say all of those things. All of those things are ways to ensure that you get that seat at the table, so to speak, and be able to have those discussions. Now, I'm talking about your boss being a guy. It could very well be that it's a woman and she smokes and you don't smoke, right? Remember that episode Friends with Rachel? And like she picked up smoking just so she could go have those discussions with her boss because all the decisions happened while they were out smoking, right? You remember that? So it could very well be something like that. It could be that people go drink and you don't drink. It could be any number of things. It could be any situation where you don't feel comfortable going and participating. And so if that's the situation where either you're not invited or you don't feel comfortable and you are invited, then you do need to have the discussion to say, look, that kind of isn't my thing. It's not really anything that I enjoy doing. Could we also schedule another event? Could we schedule a lunch together? Could we schedule a team building exercise that does this? I would love to participate in that. So don't necessarily negate what they're doing, but add to it. That's another option that you have. Either way, explain why you want to participate, explain the value that you can add by being there, and then explain why they need to invite you, why they maybe need to make an adjustment if they're not going to invite you, right? Or how they could add another event that's a bit more inclusive of everyone else so that the whole team can participate. I know that it feels very uncomfortable having those discussions because you're like, why do I have to be a problem? But if you don't walk in thinking that you're a problem, you won't convey the fact that maybe they see you as a problem, right? You're assuming they're going to see it as a problem, but they may very well not. Walk in thinking, I want to help solve this. I want to come and be a better part of the team. I want to contribute at a higher level. Here are the ways that I can do that. If you walk in with that mindset and that's the way you're thinking and communicating, then you'll deliver that message in that capacity, right? If you walk in with that level of certainty and that angle, you'll deliver it from that angle. If you walk in going, I'm so sorry, I'm a problem, then they're going to be like, yeah, you are a problem. Because you've convinced them and told them that's how they need to see it, right? So influence their perspective. Those are the pieces of advice I would recommend. That's how I would handle it in your shoes. That's how I've handled it in the past. But that is how, as you know, a soon-to-be executive or a new executive that may not be invited or being asked to participate in some of these things, how you can still participate and not be like, oh, that's the new executive causing problems. That's not you at all. Okay. Again, perception is everything. So walk in with the right mindset and use some of the things that I've recommended. I promise they work. They'll help you out.